Hello and welcome to the Gallery Show. My name is Jamieson Horton, and with me is my guest, Christian Garnett, who is the featured gallery artist for the month of April. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I've always wanted to be a guest on this show.
So, people can come by the Media Center throughout the entire month of April in the year of our Lord 2023. You're Christian, so I thought I'd just throw in that reference to the Almighty.
Actually, there's a funny story about that.
Okay.
So a lot of my art is released under the name Molten Garnett, and that is because my real name is obviously Christian Garnett. And I was worried that there would be a religious connotation with my work if I used my real name, so I started using Molten instead.
Molten. Well, you definitely have like a kind of liquefied look to some of your art style. But let's dive into your art style. And so if you want to come by the Media Center throughout the month of April, you can see Christian's artwork hanging on our walls. If he happens to be working that day, you can ask him about his art. He will be here for an artist reception on the date below. I'm sure you're eager to talk about your influences and what each piece means, the various components of every individual. I don't know, what would you call this, a collage?
You know, there definitely is a collage aspect to a lot of the work I do. Of these ones I have here, the most recent is probably this one. And like you said before, there is sort of a liquid flow style to it. And that does come from collages. It's sort of to use words that I've heard you use before, a potpourri of everything I love. And that's where these come from. And this series, I do a lot of drawings like this in this collage style, and I call them dome pieces because...
What is a dome piece?
Yeah, so let me go into that. So like I said, this series is called Dome Pieces, and in a lot of rap music, you'll hear people's heads referred to as dome pieces. And, art piece for piece, so dome piece. And the reason that it is that name is, this is kind of long-winded, but I draw them without sketches. So it's just whatever comes to my mind first is what goes on the page.
Great. Yeah, it's kind of like a direct conduit between your imagination and the paper.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, you could just stare at these works for like a long period of time and not see everything. When I was looking at this piece before the show, I didn't notice these planets or like Godzilla in the background, this Invader Zim looking character down here. It's really cool. You got like a cityscape and like a magic sword. So it really is like just the thoughts within your head being immortalized on paper.
I think it's really cool that you see it that way, because that is what I'm trying to go for with these. And by now there's got to be at least maybe 30 of them. I think it'd be really cool to sort of do a collage of collages on a wall sometime. And there's a lot of them now, so maybe someday I'll be able to do that.
Is all your artwork pen and ink? Well, I suppose not all, because we can also see your painted work here on a skateboard.
Should we talk about mediums?
Sure, yeah. What are your favorite mediums?
Well, as you can see, I mostly use paper as what I create art on. But I don't really stick with one. I don't really stick with one medium. I use pen, I use brush pens specifically. Tombow brush pens. Okay. So brush pens, markers like Copic or Blick markers, but I also use colored pencil, which you can see a lot in these. This one right here has colored pencil. The explosion in this one is colored pencil. And kind of like the way I draw these, it's just whatever feels right. Sometimes some things just feel like colored pencil to me.
Well, it definitely fits the mood of each work. It really just has a lively quality to it. It's cartoony, but also in a way that it seems like urgent and new.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I can definitely see like kind of a comic book influence with some of these panels here.
There is definitely a lot of comic and cartoon influence.
Who are your favorite comic book artists?
That's kind of a tough question, but I have an answer.
Okay.
So Bryan Lee O'Malley, the artist and writer behind Scott Pilgrim and Lost at Sea, his stuff was really big to me when I got into making art. I don't want to say professionally or full time, but seriously. I got into markers because of Scott Pilgrim. A lot of the art that Bryan Lee O'Malley was posting online at the time, he was doing with markers, and that kind of inspired me to get into markers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But besides that, other cartoons and comics as well. Like Adventure Time is a big influence on me.
Sure. That kind of like simplistic, almost retro style art.
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can do with it. When you do have a simple style, you can make it as serious and in-depth as you want. For instance, you can't see it too well, but that guy, so the character on the skateboard is Nadalgo, and he's one of the main characters from my webcomic. Centimeter Tournament.
Nice. He's kind of like a Grim Reaper because he has a scythe here and a black hooded robe.
So he's really in-depth and detailed there, but then over here, there's like a really tiny drawing of him with very little detail. So that's what I like about simplistic cartoon style, is that you can go crazy with it or let it be simple.
Very good. I can definitely see these being merchandised. Like, I'm looking at these and they would make excellent plushies or action figures or just like collectibles to sit on a computer.
Well, you're in luck because I have a sticker shop online.
Oh, fantastic. Where can people find your artwork? Other than the Media Center.
So you can come to the Media Center in the month of April and see my art. But you can also find my stickers on Redbubble, and it's Molten Garnett's secret sticker shop.
Thank you. I can definitely see an influence of video game, like Japanese video game, like that in that general character design. What are your favorite video games that you like to play that influence your work?
Yeah, so some that influenced my work were a lot of like PlayStation 1 and Super Nintendo era stuff. Like, for instance, in here you can see an ape from Ape Escape.
Oh, yeah.
I sort of like that about retro gaming, is that, like simplistic drawings, you can go anywhere with a basic design. So I play a lot of retro games, and that's what, as far as gaming, that's what inspires me.
Right. And it's great that people actually make new retro games, like in the style of a game from like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, that's true.
Over here, we have some chubby fish, and looming behind them is some kind of draconian monster.
Yeah, I guess I should talk about the flashcards, shouldn't I?
Yeah, let's talk about your flashcards.
So one of the mediums that I use very often, although I'm trying to move away from it because I want to go bigger, but flashcards. I used to just love drawing on flashcards. I felt that it was really easy to fill up the page when it's a tiny flashcard. You can get more ideas out. I mean, I could make a lot of these in a week and get a lot of ideas out of my head, which is what I liked about drawing on flashcards. But a limitation that I've found is that they're not so impressive to look at because of how tiny they are.
But you can definitely fill up more wall space when the works themselves are so small.
Yeah. I do wonder if it's better to create a bunch of small things or more impressive, larger things. But
yeah, it's interesting to compare your card art to the much larger skateboard painting.
Yeah.
Well, fascinating stuff. So to wrap this up, Christian Garnett is the featured gallery artist for the month of April 2023. So swing by the Media Center, located at 17 Shadhole Road in Dennisport, and check out his work on our gallery walls, and come to his artist reception at the date below. Christian, thank you for being on the gallery show, and I hope your gallery feature is very successful.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.